12 libraries. Let's talk about these 12 libraries beyond the technical difficulties that I experience. But before I present these 12 libraries, I thought of showing three images from the office and home of Benedetta Taliabue architects from Barcelona. Um, well, the office is called EMBT, meaning Eric Miralles, Benedetta Taliabue, but Eric Miralles died at 45, unfortunately. But they were a couple and of architects immensely fond of books, and you can see that their office is actually well, it's homely, but it's also so, you know, the books are at home. And here is Benedetta Taliabue, surrounded by many books. So it's like a private library. Well, it's not so private because it's also her office here. And this is a very important architecture practice. So, you know, the books are also part of the ambience of the office, and I'm sure everybody working in the office, you know, can have access to books. She declared that Eric Miralles, her husband, was very fond of books. There was a great interest in books, great love of books, and indeed the interior of their office shows this. So the idea to bring books into the office is a very good idea, in my opinion, because you can unite the act of knowing with the act of doing. And there are other architecture offices where this happens. Daniel Lipskind in Berlin, for example. I saw that also Richard Meyer, and now I don't know if he had books in his office, but he was always surrounded by books in his home. Anyway, this is Barcelona, the office of Miralles and Taliabue. And now we go to this famous library by Louis Kahn, the Exeter Library in the United States, one of the most remarkable modern libraries, in my opinion, although it irritated Rem Koolhaas, not the library itself, but the work of Louis Kahn. And I will show also a work by Rem Koolhaas here, the Library of Seattle in the United States. I always ask myself, why did Louis Kahn irritate Rem Koolhaas? And it's very possible that Koolhaas found the idealism of Kahn a little bit over the edge, a little bit maybe rhetorical. I mean, I don't know. He didn't explain, but I've heard him in a conference talking about Louis Kahn, never again, as if this was the worst kind of architecture. Was not, and is not. And this building in particular is one of the best works, in my opinion, of Louis Kahn, the Exeter Library. The interior indeed has a drama, has a pathos that is very possible, you know, someone like Rem Koolhaas would have had something negative to say about. Uh, you know, I was thinking about this, that the X, which is so beloved by Elon Musk, is actually here on the ceiling of this famous library by Louis Kahn. And the X is actually, you know, a symbol of the unknown. The building from the outside is rather mysterious in the sense that you don't quite know where the entrance is. But this probably was also done intentionally by Louis Kahn. It's like a, you know, a box where the access is not simple, and inside you could expect surprises, and indeed there are surprises, and the surprise is not at the edge of the or the periphery of the building with these individual study desks, very sensitively placed near the windows and in an interesting alignment. You almost could think that it's something monastic here. And this is very unusual. I mean, very few. I mean, I don't know actually of another library where a modern architect, a contemporary architect, would think in these terms about the relationship with a book to create individual, uh, study units. This happens at the edge, at the periphery of the building. You are going to see the plan, but in the center of the building, you have this huge void which dramatizes, perhaps it's a metaphor perhaps for uh, the pathos of questing for knowledge. In this section, you see that there are masonry walls on the left and the right side, and here you have these, individual desks for individual study, and then the books surround the void in an incredible architectural vortex. Um, the plan is symmetrical. It's clearly an idealized architecture, worthy of being studied. I think Louis Kahn in this building showed his uh, affection for books and for knowledge, and his quest for that X, which is the symbol of the unknown. So, it's not knowledge as something we arrived at, but it is knowledge as something we aspire towards and perhaps never arrive at. Exeter Library, an excellent university in Exeter, a rich university, a private university. Here you see the individual study units towards the windows, and now the drama of the center, and it is a drama. This also the dialectics between wood and concrete. Architecture is not just about facts, and it's not just about functionalism. It's also about symbolism and expression and metaphor. I mean, this central space, some strict functionalists would dismiss, would say, it's not necessary. What for? It's a lost space. Like Philip Johnson said, architecture is the art of losing space. It's not a lost space. It's a space which inspires. It's a space which provokes. It's a space which honors the unknown. Because let's not forget, Louis Kahn said that a great building begins with the immeasurable, then it goes through the measurable, and then it comes back in the end into the unmeasurable or the immeasurable. Look at that powerful, monumental X at the top of the central space. It's not a big building, but it has a monumentality which much bigger buildings in terms of dimensions do not have. Louis Kahn, the Exeter Library, one of his best buildings, in my opinion. Near it, he also built a dining hall for the same university, but I only show now the library. Now, Med Architects in China, with a project that is in construction right now, is not yet finalized. A very different kind of architecture. Here it is. The construction began, and this is a different kind of architecture. It's a fluid architecture done with through parametric design, and it's a gentle cave, so to speak, where books are displayed as you see them. And this is the project, but as I said, the construction began, and it's possible that it's quite advanced at this time. Med Architects. Mayan Song. An architect who was trained in the United States, and then he studied, he worked for Zaha Hadid Architects, returned to China, and now they are very, very successful. And they are very, very successful because they are mad. I mean, that's why they are called mad architects. And you need madness in order to do anything good. Some kind of a madness, you know, a total dedication to a cause. And this is what they do. And they do it brilliantly. Bravo to them. In the absence of parametric design, it would be difficult to do such a building, although there were buildings approximately similar done without parametry. I'm thinking of the TWA you know, building at the JFK airport in New York by Eero Saarinen, maybe the Einstein Tower by Mendelssohn in Potsdam in Germany. There were examples, but now we have the facility to build such a to design such buildings with the help of digital technology. Now, the Seattle Central Library by Office of Metropolitan Architecture and the local firm whose long name I do not know, but essentially is the design of Rem Koolhaas, celebrated building, very photogenic, as someone put it. It is an intriguing building, especially at night where you see the structure behind the glass facade. The glass is problematic in my opinion because glass means transparency, means natural light touching the books, and that's not a good thing for the books. But maybe they used a glass that is more expensive but protects, makes a filter through which the dangerous parts of light do not reach the books. What can we say? It's a very publicized building. It's a building that stands well where it stands there in Seattle. My subjective view is that employment of so much glass for a library is problematic. But otherwise, you know, this is a city of, you know, North American tall buildings, office buildings that are all kind of like advocating the same, you know, relationship with glass. It's still a good building. It's just that I don't know. I think inside there is a risk to be a little bit perplexed. You know, am I in a library? Am I on an airport? But the building is monumental. It's cultural. It functions. It's hybrid. It has levels of hybridity. Explorations that Rem Koolhaas did previously with his proposals for La Bibliothèque Nationale de France, for example. But here he built it. Seattle, Rem Koolhaas and OMA, Office of Metropolitan Architecture. A very different building from the Exeter Library by Louis Kahn. Of course, such a building could not function without a huge machinery that provides air conditioning. So in this sense, it's not a sustainable building in no way. I mean, the amount of energy that this building requires in order to have activities there plausible is immense. The rugs that you see there, the neurotic design of the rugs. Somebody told me that apparently his girlfriend designed those large rugs for the Seattle Library. I find them a little bit cynical almost, these rugs with a neurotic design. I don't have a detail here, but you can still see it. considering that in a library, perhaps you do need a little bit of, you don't need too much distraction. Now, Henri Labrouste, a great architect in France, who brought structure to light. Actually, the cover of a book and the name of the show at the Museum of Modern Art in New York was structure brought to light, not to life. But I found it also like this. But in a way, light is life, and life is light. So the relationship between light and life is intimate. And how did he bring structure to light or to life? Through ornament. This is a Labrouste room, reading room. He has two libraries in Paris. I will show both of them. Indeed, the structure is through the gentleness of the touch of the ornament is becoming light and graceful. First, I will show the Saint Geneviève library by him, where you see clearly that the iron structure is ornamental, and thus ornament becomes structure, and structure becomes ornament, and in this way, indeed, structure becomes, is brought to light and to life. Why did he do it? Well, because this architect understood correctly that structure by itself is not sufficient, because structure by itself could be, if I'm not brutal, could be brutal, could be, yes, rough. The gentleness of ornament creates a balance between the rigor of structure and the gentleness of something that is more aerial, so to speak. And here we see clearly the insertion of the ornament within the structure itself. Henri Labrouste, very important architect, and these are very important architectures by him. Look at the reading room in this Saint Geneviève bibliothèque. It's magnificent. It's magnificent because it elevates the spirit. You sit at the table, you open a book, you study, but the sublime ceiling inspires you, it uplifts you. So the spirit is maybe this is what we search for through knowledge, through learning, through study, through reading, to elevate ourselves beyond the level of the prose of life, from the terrestrial to the celestial. And this you see architecturally also well illustrated in this library by Henri Labrouste. Towards the outside is not so inspiring, the building, but inside, I think he did a great job. And now the Labrouste reading room, also in Paris, is this one, where again we see that at the top of the room, the reading room, something special happens. In strict functionalist terms, he didn't have to do this. Well, he did it because architecture is not just structure, and architecture is not just function, it's also feeling, it's also emotion, it's also inspiration, it's also longing, and it's also spiritual. So this beautiful ceiling is expressing this longing for something that is almost anti-gravitational and graceful and musical. Bravo to Labrouste, Henri Labrouste. You see, this was the cover of a book and probably the poster of the show brought at the Museum of Modern Art in New York. Structure brought to light. I think the exhibition was organized by the former assistant of Kenneth Frampton. Something happened here, sorry. Is this happening? Oh. Yeah. Now we go to a very different kind of library in Barcelona, built by Eric Miralles and Benedetta Taliabue. We saw three images at the beginning of their home office. This is an interesting library, very fragmented and partially underground. A surprising architectural statement for such a function. But I find it very original, very creative, and worthy of being studied. They were not, and they are not deconstructivists. It's a different kind of fragmentation in the work of, well, now just Benedetta Taliabue, because as I said, Eric Miralles died many years ago at 45. She's in the, I think she might still be in the jury that offers that evaluates the work submitted for the Pritzker Prize. She's a very accomplished architect, Benedetta Taliabue. She's not Catalan, she's Italian, but lives and works in Barcelona. And this is the very original, almost provocative library. I think the project was done together with her husband, and well, she probably finalized it after he died. So you see, this building is indeed very different from the previous libraries that we saw. Louis Kahn, Henri Labrouste, Rem Koolhaas. And these are, you know, you even wonder what it is, you know, that the elevations, it's a very special way of drawing the, you know, the plans and the sections of, of the building. I admire the work very much, and you know, they have other works, including the Parliament building in Edinburgh, which is almost difficult to conceive, considering that it is a building for the government. Anyway, Benedetta Taliabue and Eric Miralles near Barcelona. Now we arrive at a very different architect. Well, he didn't consider himself an architect. I'm talking about the glorious Michelangelo and his Biblioteca Laurenziana in Florence, in Italy, which has two parts. It has this dramatic stair which goes to the reading room, and this stair occupies, you know, almost, I mean, a large space within this so-called vestibule, which is almost like an external space, but it is actually internal, interior. And you wonder, why was there a need for this dramatic staircase, sculptural as it is, to fill the whole space? Well, the reason was because this stair, I imagine, is to symbolize, you know, the relationship between, again, like in the case of Henri Labrouste, the relationship between the terrestrial and the celestial, between the visitor or the one, the user of the space, and the attributes of knowledge which belong to the books that are to be found at the top of the stairs. So this is the reading room. Here we see maybe some echoes. I mean, we saw some echoes of this kind of architecture to an extent on the periphery of the plan of the Exeter Library by Louis Kahn. Uh, the reading room by Michelangelo is, functional. Of course, there are the desks, the benches. You read books, you study, but the drama belongs, I would say, mainly to the process of connecting life as it is with the life of spirit, with the life of study, with the life of research. This stair, which again occupies it's almost a scandal for the eye and for the mind. You know that this architect, one of the greatest the world ever had, uh, intended to fill the whole space with this dramatic stair. Well, this dramatic stair, I think, expresses the yes, the arduous journey towards knowledge. And on the other hand, looking the other way, like a volcano, the knowledge in the books, in the reading room, flowing on the slopes of the volcano towards life as is. So is this relationship between matter and spirit, between the city of Florence and the ideal is to be found on the pages of the books, between the life of the spirit and the life of physiological existence, if I am to call it so. Architecture is not just about functions, it's also about symbol, about metaphor, about more ethereal, subtle things than just the measurable ones. And I think Michelangelo, although he didn't consider himself an architect, he was very much an architect as well. In fact, he could have been anything with his genius. So, Biblioteca Laurenziana, which is connected with San Lorenzo Basilica, which was built by Brunelleschi, a great building. And so you have the Basilica San Lorenzo, and here is the San Lorenzo Library, or the Biblioteca Laurenziana. This is the plan of the vestibule, if we are to call it so, the entrance hallway. What is interesting is that the interior walls of this space are treated as if they are exterior facades of buildings, but it's actually an inner space. Although I'm not very sure, but I think initially this was planned to be opened at the top. Now it is not opened at the top. So the stair is the main actor here. It almost doesn't need humans. It's by itself so powerful, so dramatic that it conveys in physical form the drama of the relationship between reading and thus knowing and life as lived. And here you see in the section the relationship, the verticality of the vestibule, if we are to call it so. You see the plan, here is the vestibule, then the reading room, and in the section, yes, the same thing. Laurenziana Library, or Biblioteca Medicea Laurenziana. La Scala di Michelangelo nella Biblioteca Medicea Laurenziana in Florence. And here you see the relationship between the Basilica by Brunelleschi, which is on the right, and the library, which is here. Okay, now we go to something very different. Well, a Baroque, beautiful library, where is the Austrian National Library, but it used to be, I think, the Library of the King by Johann Fischer von Erlach, a brilliant Baroque architect, one of the best ever. And it is a splendid, a sublime library. I mean, yes, it was intended for a king, and for a king in a way it remained, although it is open now to the public. You know, plenty of sculptures, statues, books all around. The space is out of this world. Is yes, for a king. It's a very inspiring library. In fact, I don't even know if you want to read a book there. It's the whole space, the whole atmosphere elevates one enough. Um, so you know, Baroque architecture, although it was often accomplished for the rich and powerful, or for I include the church here, now can be enjoyed by everybody. So you know, a library meant a lot for humans. We needed we needed to know, as Paul Klee said, that we are in the crepuscular valley of man. They who know, they do not know. Well, because we know we do not know, we want to know. And in the process of wanting to know, we build libraries, and not only libraries, but now we talk about libraries in sometimes in amazing ways. It's not a sacred space, but on the other hand, it's not just a secular space either, because knowledge is in between somehow the two realms, and and that's why the library has a specificity which I think makes it very noble. And the building by Johann Fischer von Erlach is adorned with great art. It's meant to elevate the spirit. Now this building is the Austrian National Library, or the National Library of Austria. Let's not forget Austria. You know, well, it was the last empire. Now the Austro-Hungarian Empire, which ended in 1918. So you know, the majestic side of what an empire might